and I will talk about one big project, the resource project, and about how you can actually dissect the social brain. You know, where is empathy, compassion in our body, brain, and system? And then I will show you how we have used the pandemic, the social pandemic, when in the whole world, we were in lockdowns and we couldn't go out, to do a mental health study, which we call Social Project, and to measure how do people in the world, I have measured in Berliners in Germany, because this is where I am, and how we can actually do something about this problem. Because what are the problems we want to address with research? So I think the problems you all know. So we have, in the world, we have something we call now a loneliness pandemic. It's not a virus pandemic, but loneliness, because for the first time in loneliness research, the 25, like the young people, are lonelier, they feel lonelier and disconnected than the 80 plus. So there is, after the pandemic, an increase in mental health problem, in depression, in stress, anxiety, and we have to, I always say it's a bit like a tsunami, but it is happening in our minds and in our mental health, not physical health. And of course we have these macroeconomic problems like climate crisis, and then, we have wars in Europe where I live, we have Ukraine war, now we have a war in the Middle East, so these problems did not get better, they get worse and worse. So I was a psychologist, I am still a neuroscientist, and I was like, what can we do to counteract these problems, to give solutions? Because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, I cannot change, law, but I can do something else. I can make the world aware of the power of inner change. And the power inner change has on behavior, on our brain, on our mental health, on our body. And doing science around that can help also to open doors in fields which may be skeptic, right? Because when I started doing this research, the people were like, empathy, compassion? You can do research with empathy and compassion? That's a bit soft, right? It's a bit like something private, right? And then we started doing research in social neuroscience, and I will show you that we can actually measure the brain for these things. It's not soft. It's not a luxury. It's something we need for the world to survive. But before, I want to make a shift here, because I also worked as a professor in an economy department. And you will ask, how does a psychologist, social neuroscience ends up in an economy department and develops what we call caring economics approach. So what is this about? We worked on understanding how do cooperation manifest and how does cooperation work and when does it collapse? And these questions are not only the domain of economy, but it's also the domain of psychology and individual social science. So we all came together and we started working on new models of how economic thinking can be influenced by modern neuroscience and psychology. This field is also called neuroeconomics. Don't know whether you have heard about it. So let me sketch for you what it means, caring economics. So this is, very roughly speaking, the model, Homo economicus, a neoliberal economic model you find in textbooks nowadays, still. And for us psychologists, it's very bizarre, because a decision or a choice, usually financial buying, is influenced by what they call preferences. And preferences is like, I like grapes more than apples. And they come from nowhere, totally insensitive of the context, of your age, of how, your mood is. And then you have these abstract beliefs about another, which will inform you what the other will do. For us psychologists, this doesn't make sense at all. We have a lot of experiments and a lot of science since many years showing that actually decision-making in humans is totally different. So instead of having one preference, one utility function, which is all about greediness and optimizing my earnings in economy, we have a lot of motivation system. They are evolutionary old system. And depending on which motivation system is more activated, you will have totally different decisions. So and the context matters a lot. So let me talk about these motivation systems. You know them. There is one class of motivation system we call incentive-driven, because there is about achieving, you want to be better than yesterday. You know, like if you look at Olympics, it's all about achievement motivation, right? Faster, quicker, better, just more. All our education system nowadays is based mostly on achievement motivation, science as well. Now then we have consumption and we have power motivation, status. These incentive-focused motivation, they come usually with this very high drive. I want something, it feels good if I achieve it, if I had a lot of power. But it also comes with the fear to lose it. So you are afraid not to be the best. You are afraid to lose power, not to get enough. And then another motivation system is active, which is called threat system. Anger, fear, trauma. We heard about trauma now a lot. So trauma is just a manifestation of frozen fear, yeah? So now that is the important thing where the caring economics come in. We have also very old social motivation system, like affiliation. We want to belong. We want to be in a community. We want to be part of a community, whether it's a nation or a family. And that is the most altruistic motivation system we have, care. We care about the welfare of another, right? The mother cares about the welfare of her child, the father as well. They would not, like in the economy, have, like if a child goes under a car, you know, the mother would not think rationally and say, if I go and rescue my child and you are looking how I rescue my child, then I might score an image, they call that image scoring, and that might make me a better person, so perhaps no, the care system is active. Millisecond, you are under the car, and you have not even thought a minute about doing that. It's an altruistic motivation system, and this is where gratitude, compassion, loving kindness, all these social emotions are actually living in this care system. So now they come with very different connotation, whereas these incentive focus, they come with this positive high arousal, but the danger is that you can become addicted very quickly. Workaholism, addicted to your cell phone, addicted to money, addicted to food, to sugar, and a lot of our health problems are actually in there. So every motivation is good in itself, but it has to be in balance, yeah? So, because, for example, biologically speaking, the socially focused, you know, coming with trust, with love, with care, they actually activate a system in our body and brain, which is to do with opiates, oxytocin, so it calms down your system, it soothes your system. It brings down your fear, your anxiety, your stress. There is a directly inhibitory biological pathway. So the more you activate care, the less you will be about yourself and in fear and, you know, like activating the cortisol HPH axis in your body and then becoming ill. So if these systems are in balance, you are a healthy individual. Now you can imagine if these systems, motivation, are in balance in the bigger system we have, economy, healthcare, education, science. The bigger systems are out of balance because they are mostly based on the incentive-focused motivation nowadays. And this is why they become thick, but on a macroscopic level. So how can, so that is a new caring economics approach. I go very quickly over that. You see these mathematic formulation of utility functions. So the first utility function is what you find in our nowadays economy. This is consumption. It's a classic, I want to, optimize my earning utility function. And then selfish behavior comes out on the other end. But this is just one motivation system for many we have, right? And a whole economy is based on that. Doesn't make sense, right? All the other motives, you see, if you are power motivated, you will have more competition. If you are care motivated, you will have more cooperation, more pro-social behavior, more altruism, and so on and so on. So we have to rewrite the backbone of how we see humans, right? Because they are very influential, these models. And we have done a lot of experiments to show in the lab that it's actually true, that it's not just a theoretical model, but you can, for example, activate care in you, and then you use a lot of these monetary, economic, game theoretical paradigms where you exchange money with others. Economists use them all the time. And then you can show the same person activated with care will be more pro-social in these decision-making, financial decision-making, then a week later the same person activated power motivation, same games, same decisions, will be more competitive and more aggressive. Same person, right? So forget about preferences, context insensitivity, and all these claims. We have to rethink human nature to make us actually back into balance and also our world and our system. Now, in psychology or neurobiology, if you want to activate care system, you do massage because that activates oxytocin. No? And if you look at the little cute, no, you're like, the whole thing, it's like just relaxing, and you feel like, your heart going up. No, this is like, so you can imagine if you really get, but it's not a political solution, right? We cannot put massage in all the banking environments. So we are interested, can you actually, in education already early on, but also in adults, go inside and use mental training and use meditation and compassion-based inner work to actually achieve the same, to activate our own care system. And this is really what we focused the last 25 years in my lab. Can you, and that's the two studies I want to show you, the resource project, a 9 months, very long, big, largest study ever done in this field. And then the Social, very minimal dose, only 12 minutes mental training, only online during the pandemic, to scale these approaches so that you can see it's not just in the lab. So what was the goals? Can we improve social skills? Can we improve altruism, cooperation? Can we boost mental health and reduce stress, right? Can we create more social cohesion and social connectedness? All these values which we are so in need to have in the world. So this is how the resource project looked like. 300 people, so a little bit less than you are, have participated over a year in a study where they did 30 minutes of this inner mental training. Like instead of going to a fitness club or sport, you just cultivate your mind and your inner muscle. And the first 3 months, the presence, people learned how to stabilize their mind and how to become more attentive to the present moment, not always being, we are all a bit scattered with all our cell phones and too many news. Our mind is constantly, no, it's never there. So stabilizing the mind is the basis for inner work. It's like getting your focus back into inside and into the present moment. Then we had the WED, the module in WED, was a module where care system was activated. It was all about opening your heart, socio-emotional practices like compassion, loving kindness, gratitude, acceptance also of difficult emotion, also of difficult parts and stress. And then the green module was socio-cognitive. It was about the ability to have a metacognitive awareness of you, like a bird's eye perspective of your mind, but also of other people's mind. We call that cognitive perspective taking, like the ability to understand that other people hold different beliefs, have different thoughts than you. It is absolutely crucial for peace. If you don't have this ability, no peace, because then in conflictual situation you need that. Okay, and then we had a lot of teachers, and they would, accompany and teach all our people how to do this mental training exercise, how to do them correctly. And we had an app. And with the app, every day, you could work at home. You could do your practice, 30 minutes. So in the presence module, you had 30 minutes, 2 classic, mindfulness, attention building exercises. And in the affective and perspective module, you had not only exercise you do alone, because they are social modules, right? It's about social emotion, it's about the we. You had also diets. You see these partner-based exercise, so you would practice with another partner every day. Okay, and so lots of measure, 91 measure. And why, people always ask, why do you have this module, affect and perspective? It is because in my field, in social neuroscience, we know that the brain is very complex, the social brain. So empathy is not compassion, and empathy is sharing a feeling. So you are suffering, I suffer. So we have a lot of empathy right now in the world because of the news we see every day from Israel-Palestinian war, from Ukraine war, from everything which is happening. But empathy is an emotion where you share the suffering, right? Compassion and also cognitive perspective taking is 2 different things. So cognitive perspective taking is what I said, is the ability to take a cognitive perspective of the beliefs and thoughts. It doesn't feel like, it's not like emotional resonance. And compassion is, again, something else. So perhaps to make a long story short, this cognitive perspective ability, you need it to really overcome differences and understand that, for example, because of religious beliefs of someone, they may act in a way you don't understand, but it's not the person who is bad, it's just the belief the person has which leads to this action. And the care system, compassion, needs to be there to motivate to act. Because compassion is all about care. It's about you want the other to be happy, you want the well-being of the other, and you act. You do something if possible. And if we scan the brain, put you in a brain scanner, and we scan the brain while you are doing empathy or compassion or perspective taking, we actually see different networks. So cognitive perspective taking here in green is a network in the brain which is totally different than in red, limbic and paralimbic structures, which are the base for empathy and compassion. So it is really biologically different, and the difference between empathy and compassion is also provable. You can see it in the brain when you do these experiments. And why it is so important for people, also educators or healthcare provider, to understand the difference is because when you are only in empathy, if you are only feeling the suffering of the other, and this becomes too much because of your trauma, because of the world, because you are stressed, you are exhausted, it can go into what we call empathic distress. So you are so stressed, and then it becomes your own suffering. You don't know anymore that it was actually the other. You can't, and then it's not pro-social and helpful anymore. You burn out on the long run. So we are teaching people how to recognize healthy empathy and move into compassion and move into the care system, which is a system of love, unconditional love and care and altruism. And only if you can do that, you can actually stay healthy, even if you are a healthcare provider in the middle of a pandemic, totally overworked, or you have to deal with one crisis after the other, right? And here again, you see the blue system in the brain is the empathic resonance system and comes with negative emotion when someone is suffering. And the red, this affiliation care system in the brain in red, is coming with feeling of strength, of warmth, as a motivation. I want your welfare, right? So it is much more resilient, is much more powerful, and it is not so fleeting. It's not like, oh, one picture and I feel bad, and the next picture I feel. It is very stable because it's a motivation. So it is really important to practice. Also, you know, we do these practices with healthcare providers of how to recognize all these emotions and how to move from one into the next. Okay, so that was a little excursus into the complexity, no, of our social human brain or biology. And perhaps now you will at least not say anymore that empathy, compassion cannot be measured and is soft, right? It is the same than motor circuitry or speech or perception, right? It is a biological foundation we are built with, human beings. And we can train them, and that's the good news, right? We have these different networks, and now we have in the resource project these different exercises, no? The presence module, affect, perspective, you remember? And we can actually grow the hardware of our brain. So what I show you here in yellow is thicker prefrontal cortex after 3 months of attention-based mindfulness training. And that is not young children, it's old people like me, no? 43-year-old on average, up to 55. And when I was medical student, people told me, with 25, your brain shrinks, thinner, 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 because of age, until you are dement, Alzheimer or so on. But that with 43, you can do 30 minutes internal exercises and your network will grow and you will have more gray matter volume growing. Nobody told me that. And then in the domain of soft skills, right? Empathy, compassion, perspective taking, all the social skills we have to be with others. And that's what we show here, right? The same people after 3 months of affective training, of affect module, have more compassion in behavior and in the brain. And after 3 months of practicing this with a partner, perspective taking, no? Going from one mind to the next, you have bigger circuitry in this cognitive mentalizing ability. So that was quite revolutionary for us, right? Because this means that we can really do something about it in all ages, more or less. It's faster with children. Children are like sponges. They learn like very fast. And we could also show that even using these economic games, no, where the economists have said either you are an egoist or you are an altruist, but you don't change. We could show just 30 minutes and you become more altruistic. 3 months, you know, forget about stable preference. They don't exist. And they are certainly not context insensitive. So that is proven, right? We just need now to change the economic models. I leave that up to economists. that is one exercise which we took out of the resource project because it was a very, very efficient exercise. And we put it into the next project during the COVID pandemic because it's an exercise you do with a partner. So imagine when you are in a retreat or in a room, you would do it eye to eye, front. But we did it every day with an app per phone. So I would call you, for example, and 1 week, every day, we would do this practice, 12 minutes, where you would ask me, Tanya, tell me a situation of the last day, we make it every day, no? Where you felt stress or some difficult emotion, and how did it feel in your body? Because we are working in reconnecting with the body. And then you would listen, you would practice empathic listening, non-judging, not interrupting, not giving advice, just be there. And I would contemplate on different questions, gratitude, so on. And so that's the listener, the speaker. They always have just 2.5 minutes, so it's very short. After 6 minutes, you change roles, so it's very democratic. You don't have a therapist or a guru or a priest. You just have 2 people randomly matched. So you could do it, and every week I change partner. So if I do a 10 weeks course, I have you 1 week, I have you 1 week, and so on. So you would start getting to know very vulnerable, true, sensitive insight of this other person's life, but without condemning, without judging. And we have different partner-based diets, triads, right? Diet is just, it's not diet. People always think it's to do with food, because I cannot say diad. It's 2 people. And so with just 12 minutes every day, you practice empathic listening, accepting and coping with stress and difficult emotion, activating resilience, care, and gratitude, getting better in reading out your body signals, what we call interoceptive body awareness. And people become social connected. So this is a data set I just show you here. When we ask people after this diet, how close do you feel before and after to your partner, you don't know. They always say much closer afterward. And what was interesting is even in the next week when they get a new partner, they don't know yet. They feel already closer to the new partner before they have even started the exercise. Meaning you get more and more trusting with the world. You expand this sense of interdependence and social connection and this sense of shared humanity, right? We are all just humans. We all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. And we all have vulnerability and we all have gratitude. And that's just our humanity, whether you are a banker or 80-year-old or 18-year-old, it doesn't matter. People are coupled across borders. So it's very peace-building. It brings a lot of tolerance. Okay, so that's just a summary of this first huge project, right? We could show all these amazing effects. You don't need some pills, you don't need to swallow anything, it doesn't cost a lot, right? Once you have learned it, it's inside of you. You can just do it in the bathroom before a meeting, you don't have to, it's a skill you have learned, which really helps you to build, care, to build resilience, to build cooperation, pro-social motivation, reduce stress, boost mental health, change your brain. So it's really very powerful, right? But the people asked me, can we do it in hospital now? Can we do it education? I'm like, 9 months program, 17 teacher with retreats at the beginning. It's not really scalable, right? It's not easy to bring that into now the field. So how life is always, right? You have this in your backbone. You're like, how could I do science of scalable approach? And then life brings you, just by chance in a way, COVID. And we were stuck at home we couldn't go in our labs. So we said, okay, let's do a project, COF on how to track the mental health of the Berliners. I was in Berlin, in Germany, capital, when we are going through all these lockdowns. And then I think we saw, this is the COF project, we had 8 measurements, no? First lockdown, second lockdown, 6 months lockdown. And we saw something which all the studies in the world I have seen, which are coming out now, mental health study, see. The first lockdown, people were like, shock, more depression, more anxiety, more loneliness. But then they could recover quickly. But then the second lockdowns, that it doesn't stop, that they were coming back, was actually really bad. You see loneliness, depression, anxiety, stress, every month is increasing. So you really had a lot of mental health problem building up in the whole world, actually. And over all the studies I have seen, the women suffered most, and the youngest population, not the oldest. The 18 to 25 years in our study, which was the youngest cohort, had more loneliness, more depression, more anxiety, and you see it in all studies I have seen. So we were like, okay, let's not continue tracking them getting worse and worse and worse. Let's do something. Let's introduce in a second phase, just online, just 12 minutes practice a day. And one group would do this attention-based classic mindfulness, which there's a lot of research and a lot in the world. And the other group, the red one, was doing this partner-based 12-minute diet. I just told you, no, this kind of exchange with a partner. And there were 4 teachers and coaching session online every week, 10 weeks. So low dose, right? This is scalable. This you can do. And so we just took one little exercise route. No, one group was doing 12 minutes partner-based exercise with the app every day, 10 weeks. The other was doing alone practices. And it was amazing because this was a high-risk project. We call that high-risk project in science because it could have been nothing comes out. These were Berliners who had never done inner work before. They were tube drivers, so people who had never ever heard about this inner work because they were part of this COVID study, right? So we had really people who were like totally naive to this mental training. They just did it. And it was amazing. I was always in the feedback session in the week. It was amazing to see what happened. And we could show that we could reduce anxiety, depression, emotion regulation difficulties. We could boost compassion and self-compassion in both groups. And now was very interesting because now there are differences between the mindfulness and the partner-based dietic group. Only the diets could really boost resilience and this optimism bias, this kind of positive outlook in life. We could measure that with tasks, you know, whether you look at the life in a negative way, no hope, like the glass is half empty, right? It's so empty, all the crises, you can measure that. Or whether you look at the world with a spirit of hope and optimism and social support. And the diets were boosting this and resilience. Only the diet could reduce loneliness on all measures we had, which is important because we have a loneliness problem. We have a loneliness epidemics, which nobody is really talking, but it's getting worse and not better, right? So this would be a scalable approach to do something about it. We can reconnect people, and we could even show that on a cortisol hormonal body level, we could reduce only diets, social stress to 31%. And if you would be a lab worker like me, you would know it's not easy to get such findings at all. It's really difficult because it's your hormones, right? It's not lying. And to get them down is not so easy. And we got, you know, an effect of stress reduction, which is quite powerful. So coming back to the caring economics approach, there is not just external change agent. We can actually build a world which is more rebalanced towards affiliation care and these other motivation system. We can do it. It's actually not so difficult. It doesn't cost a lot. And everyone has the power to do it every day when they wake up in the morning once they have learned it. So we are now transferring these approaches to society. So we want to bring them into school, into hospitals, into different systems, and then do research, and that's called the Edu Social Project. So it's like, can we really change also the classroom atmosphere, the well-being of a system, not just of an individual, but a whole system, a hospital department, and like reduce burnout rate in systems. So that's the next step. We are just starting with that. And I'm also giving these masterclass retreats. And this is, for example, an example you see left is French healthcare worker in the middle of the pandemic. And they have done 3 days retreat, learned these practices, and they learned specific partner-based DIAD. And then they went back into the hospitals, Paris, Bordeaux, and different things, and did 8 weeks, every day, these exercises. And every week online we would meet, we would deepen, we would create this, the safety, psychological safety space, and they loved it. So, people always say, no, you can't do anything with teachers. They are so busy already, they don't want to learn anything new. Same for the, for healthcare workers. Like, no, they have shifts, you can't do another program with them. You can, and they love it. When you do these 12 minutes, it is such a support and such a resilience building and social field building exercise, and really needed by the people who care most for us, right, in healthcare, for children, and who deserve more than what we give. That's a German one, so thank you very much. This is my resource group in the Kopf Social, the last project. And I hope my English was not too fast for the translator. It's okay, yeah, you could get it. Thank you.
Tania, we would like to thank you. Your investigations are very important because we are training, we are trying to be, working in that. So thank you very much for coming from Germany and all the travel that you had, 24 hours or more, I don't know. Thank you for that.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here. It's the first time I'm in Mexico.
Beautiful.
That was my microphone. Thank you, thank you. Now you asked first.
Continuamos ahora con un reconocimiento importante. En los últimos 15 años siempre hemos tenido el apoyo de, además de todos los sectores, como el gobierno de los estados, las academias y demás, de empresas que nos han venido apoyando desde el principio hasta hoy. Y ahora, en estos 15 años, quisiera dar un reconocimiento y agradecer a nuestras empresas que nos han acompañado, y para esto me permito invitar al representante de ARCA, a la representante, Rosario, bienvenida. Gracias por estar aquí. Por favor.
Invitamos al representante de FEMSA, Luis Quirós, en representación de Luis Quirós. ¿Nos iba a acompañar alguien? Adelante. Gracias. Berel, Humberto Rodríguez Partida. Muchas gracias. De Acero, la licenciada Alicia Núñez.